If someone had told me 6 months ago that I'd be here, pouring my guts out to strangers on the internet, I would have laughed. We were the perfect couple, or so I thought. My name's Evan. I'm 36. I own a small but successful logistics business that keeps me on the road more often than I'd like. My wife, Amelia, is 34. Stunning, smart, the kind of woman who lights up a room. We've been married for 8 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter, Sophie, the center of my world. Things were normal. Maybe too normal. I traveled often for work, sometimes 2 weeks at a stretch. Amelia was always understanding, or so I believed. We'd FaceTime at night, text during the day. She always seemed happy to see me, always reassured me that everything was fine at home. A few months back, my usual driver, Marcus, a family friend, got into a bad accident. Out of necessity, I hired a temporary driver through a local service. That's how David came into our lives. David was 28, charming in a way that felt casual but confident. Always polite. Always helpful. I remember thinking he was too good to be driving people around for a living. Amelia met him once or twice when he dropped me off at home. She seemed friendly enough, polite small talk, nothing unusual. But then I got busier. A new contract had me traveling nearly every week. I'd be home for 2, maybe 3 days at a time. Amelia took on more of the household responsibilities, and sometimes, when she needed an extra hand, she'd call David to help run errands or pick up Sophie when she couldn't. It felt harmless. At least, that's what she told me. I first noticed something odd when I came home early from a trip. I walked in, exhausted, expecting the usual warm welcome. But Amelia seemed startled. Flustered. She hadn't even told me she'd invited David over to help fix a leaky faucet. They were in the kitchen when I walked in, standing a bit too close for comfort. David quickly excused himself. Amelia laughed it off. "You scared me," she said, kissing my cheek. I tried to brush it off, but something felt off in my gut. Over the next few weeks, little things started piling up. She seemed glued to her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't share. Our conversations were shorter. Intimacy became rare, and when it happened, she seemed distracted. Distant. The final straw came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I'd wrapped up a client meeting early and decided to surprise Amelia and Sophie with lunch. I didn't tell her I was coming home, I wanted it to be a nice gesture. But when I pulled into our driveway, David's car was already there. I'll never forget the scene that unfolded. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Sophie was at school. I walked upstairs, confused, and heard voices low, muffled, coming from our bedroom. My heart pounded as I pushed the door open. There they were. David was sitting on the edge of our bed, shirtless. Amelia was standing between his legs, her arms draped around his neck, kissing him like her life depended on it. They didn't even notice me at first. I stood there, frozen, until she finally looked up, eyes wide with shock and guilt. "Evan," she started, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think." I laughed. A bitter, broken sound. "Really?" "Because it looks exactly like what I think." David scrambled to grab his shirt. Amelia rushed toward me, tears already streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It got out of hand." I couldn't process the words. My mind was spinning. This was my wife. The mother of my child. In our home. In our bed. I walked out. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just walked out, got in my car, and drove. 4 hours. I don't even remember where I went. Later that night, she called. I ignored her. I needed space, needed to think. How do you even begin to process something like this? The woman I trusted with everything had betrayed me with a man I barely knew. A man I had invited into our lives. That's where I'm at now. Sitting alone in a hotel room, writing this because I don't know who else to talk to. My heart feels like it's been ripped out of my chest. My mind keeps replaying that scene over and over. I haven't spoken to Amelia since. She's been texting nonstop, begging me to come home. To talk. To try and fix this. But how do you fix something that's shattered? I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I can forgive her. All I know is, nothing will ever be the same again. I didn't sleep that first night. I lay there in the hotel room, the dim light from the street lamps outside cutting sharp angles across the ceiling. I kept seeing it, Amelia in David's arms, their kiss seared into my memory like a brand. By dawn, I had read and reread her texts maybe 100 times. The same desperate apologies, the same pleas. Please come home. We need to talk. I was stupid. I love you. Please, Evan, don't give up on us. Somewhere between anger and heartbreak, exhaustion finally took over. I slept for an hour, maybe two, and when I woke up, I felt hollow. The man I was before that afternoon felt like a stranger. I couldn't hide from this forever, though. Sophie would notice my absence. I had to face it. Face her. When I pulled up to the house later that evening, my stomach churned. I sat in the car for a long time before finally forcing myself to walk up to the door. My hand shook as I turned the knob. The house was eerily quiet. I found Amelia sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red and swollen, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. When she saw me, she stood, but I held up my hand. Don't, I said. My voice sounded strange. Detached. I just want to talk. No touching. No games. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I sat across from her, the space between us feeling like miles. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the only question that mattered. Why? She broke down, sobbing. I didn't plan it. It started small. He was here when you weren't. He listened. He made me feel wanted. Those words cut deeper than any blade. Wanted. As if I hadn't spent years building a life for her, for us. And Sophie? I asked. What happens to her when you're sneaking around with him? When you blow up our family? Amelia sobbed harder, shaking her head. I never wanted to hurt her. Or you. I was so lost, Evan. You were always gone, always working. I felt alone. I wanted to scream. To tell her that I worked for us. That every late night, every trip, every sacrifice was to build a life where she and Sophie never had to worry about anything. But instead, I said, you could have told me you were lonely. You could have asked for help. You didn't have to do this. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand away. Is it still going on? I asked. No, she whispered. I ended it. The moment you saw us, it was over. I didn't believe her. Not fully. Trust once broken is a hard thing to rebuild. I told her I needed space. That I would be staying at the hotel for a while. We agreed that for Sophie's sake, we'd keep things civil. No yelling. No dragging her into this. The next few weeks were a blur. I moved into a small rental apartment. Amelia bombarded me with texts and calls. Some angry, some pleading. I ignored most of them. My heart was numb. Sophie asked questions. Why isn't Daddy home? Amelia told her I was busy with work. I hated lying to my daughter, but I wasn't ready to explain the ugliness of adult mistakes. One night, after a particularly long day, I got a text from Amelia. Please, Evan. I've started therapy. I'm trying to understand why I did this. Please give me a chance to fix what I broke. I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to burn it all to the ground. File for divorce. Move on. But another part, the part that remembered the good years, the laughter, the promises, that part wasn't ready to let go so easily. I finally agreed to meet with her in the presence of a counselor. That session was brutal. She admitted everything. Said David had been in her ear for months, feeding her doubts about our marriage. Offering her attention, validation. Things she felt I had stopped giving her. I told her the truth, that I had been struggling too. That I'd buried myself in work to provide, but also because I felt like she didn't need me anymore. The distance between us had grown, and neither of us had reached out to bridge it. The counselor said something that stuck with me: infidelity doesn't happen in a vacuum. It grows in the space where communication dies. She was right. But knowing that didn't erase the betrayal. Weeks turned into months. I kept my distance, seeing Sophie regularly, keeping things cordial with Amelia. She kept going to therapy. She swore she had no contact with David anymore. He had been fired from the driving service after she confessed everything. Slowly, painfully, the rage in me dulled into sadness. The grief of a marriage that would never be what it once was. And that's where I am now. I'm not ready to say if I'll ever trust her again. Some days I miss her so much it hurts. Other days, I feel nothing but bitterness. But I've learned this much: healing isn't about rushing to forgive. It's about honoring the pain, sitting with it, and deciding, when you're ready, what comes next. I owe that to myself. And to Sophie. For now, we're separated. We talk, mostly about co-parenting. I don't know if there's a future for us as a couple. Some wounds run too deep. But I'm still standing. And that counts for something. If you've made it this far, thank you. Writing this has helped more than I expected. I don't know where this road leads, but I do know this: I will survive it. One step at a time.